And we are back. The holiday season is crucial for not for profits, generating billions of dollars within a month. However, due to the rise in natural disasters such as earthquakes and fires, Direct Relief reveals that 41% of donors hesitant to give by the end of 2023, having already contributed to emergency causes earlier this year. Now, joining me now to provide more is the president and CEO of Direct Relief, Thomas Ty. Thomas, thank you for being with us. This is a time, usually before, where we would talk about anticipation on the part of not for profits. But as we get to these months, it's really a time now of hesitation.
Right. Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it very much. And you're right. I think it's a kind of a weird time. And it's been a year that was marked by a lot of major events from the fires in Maui to the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria, and obviously what's going on in the Middle East. So I think, when we did a little survey, we found that people were feeling a bit tapped out. And so that's all for many nonprofits around the country. A big percentage of what they receive for the whole year comes between Thanksgiving and midnight on New Year's Eve, as people are trying to do something for, either for tax purposes or because that's been the tradition. So, I mean, you never know. You can never bank on it, but you do what you can and keep your fingers crossed. But I think you said it well. I think the context of the moment we're in, there's a lot of distractions. The economic situation is tough for many people. So I guess we'll know on January 1st how things shook out.
Yeah, I looked at one of the statistics that was given to me, and I found this to be quite amazing that over the last 20 years, 20 million people have just stopped giving altogether.
Right. Right. I think it was an eye opener. I think I don't think Americans are any less generous. They give in different ways. I think the kind of younger generation tends to be more spontaneous, perhaps less planned than the traditional people who would have everything in a ledger and plan carefully their year end, every expense. And I think it's much more dynamic these days. And so the way people engage with everyone else, including organizations, has really evolved. So for Direct Relief and many nonprofits, just trying to stay in sync with the people, and without whose involvement, it doesn't work at all. I mean, it's really nonprofits are voluntary activities for people to participate. It's not mandatory, which is a great thing. So you want to extend that invitation, all groups do, to invite the participation, but be aware of where people are and how you can connect with them. And I think just the way we receive information, communicate with each other has evolved so much. It's always kind of a constant effort to try to say, how do we engage with people who might be interested in what we do? And I think that's with 1.5 million charities in the United States, it can be just sending more email and bombarding people is probably not a great idea. Calling them on the phone is not a great idea. It's irritating. So I think trying to be visible and communicate for any organization with its supporters or potential supporters is very important.
When we talk about where we are today, we know that there has been volatility, economic volatility. So many people right now are just really struggling. And when it comes to the area of giving, they want to make sure that they're giving to a charity or a not for profit that is really going to do right by them when it comes to taking their gift and maximizing it, making the most out of it, and going where it says it's going to go, right? So a lot of people out there are shopping when it comes to not-for-profits because there's so many to choose from. How do I give to this organization? How do I give to this organization? And then also the choice of which organization should I be able to factor in my giving? My question will be that in itself, how does a person really make the right decision? Because there's so many out there to choose from. How do I make the right decision that I'm going in the right direction?
It's a great question. And I think the first part of the answer is that no one can tell you what to care about. That's very personal. And some people are deeply passionate about animal welfare or the environment or their church or local school or sports league. Direct Relief happens to work on humanitarian health services for people around the world. So, I'm biased. I'm close to that, but I recognize that that's the wonderful thing about philanthropy. You get to choose what you care about, and no one can tell you that, right? But once you do decide that this is the cause I care about, how can I find an organization, just as you said, that's going to do right with my money, make me feel proud? And sort of like there are these shopping, like, I see these TV commercials for shop with Google, we'll do all the price comparison for the same product. There are kind of analogs for nonprofits, and one of them is Charity Navigator, which is an independent organization that basically grades and rates nonprofit organizations, how well they're doing with transparency, how efficient they are, what their governance looks like. So it's an indication of stability and legitimacy. So I think my advice would be, once you find what you care about, do a little homework to see, well, which organization is going to do right with my money. And to do that, you can look at Charity Navigator. And this is an independent organization. It just is a kind of consumer guidance for potential donors. Or Charity Watch. These are independent organizations that are kind of like consumers' reports about charities. And I think that's a good way to have people feel good. If they lean in and make a contribution, they should feel good about it. But you feel awful if you hear something later that it's a sketchy organization. So it's worth doing a little homework if you're in a position to give and you want to do it. Just try to do it thoughtfully with for that cause you care about.
Yeah, let's go from being not just the giver now to that organization, because we know so many organizations during this time of year, as you said, are really banking on being able to bring it home during the month of December, November, the holidays, right before we get to the end of the year. For organizations, knowing that there's these potential donors out there, we know that donors can get turned off by so many different things. What should an organization do if they're really looking to attract donors during a time like this, when we know that this is the heavy giving season? Is there a better formula for donors to actually, or I should say, organizations reach out to potential donors rather than the mass ways that we see sometimes that can be really overbearing to people?
Well, that's probably a multi-billion-dollar question. I'm not fully prepared. I wish if I knew the answer to that, Darren, it would be great. But I think my general advice for organizations, and this is what we try to do, is first of all, is just do your job well, be worth it, right? Don't focus on the work that led you to work at an organization. And I think at the end of the day, that's what people want. They want to ensure that their money goes to people who are committed to the work, not just who are good at marketing. And so I think for people, many people aren't in a position to give at all, but that doesn't mean they don't have a voice or a vote. One of the things we found is that particularly younger people are keying off of their peers. The reputation that's built by someone who knows. So even folks who aren't maybe big donors, they may have a big voice, and a lot of people follow them. So I think to look for your supporters, if you have a small organization but you have a committed folks, they all know people, and that's the best reference of anyone. So I think just sending mail, first of all, you can waste a lot of money of your donors just sending mail they're going to throw away. It doesn't make any sense. So I think just step back, look at internally what brought you to work there, those things of value that really make you feel good about going, and try to connect with people who are already involved and hope that circle spreads, that ripple effect, because it's so hard to penetrate the public consciousness. Everyone's bombarded with ads and information, and it's just a very noisy time. So I think back to the basics of those small concentric circles and personal connections is really an important thing, even for big organizations.
Yeah. You said you didn't have the answer, but I think you gave one. Do the work. That's what you said. Do the work. And I think that's really important, because I think so many times the work speaks for people, that they don't have to do all these other crazy things that people now become inundated with that turns them off. It's been great talking to you, Thomas, and really appreciate the work that you're doing and letting us know what it's like out there.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time, and good luck to you.
Hey, thanks much. I appreciate you. All right, listen, now for more information, visit the website at directrelief.org. Also, there's social media at Direct Relief.